which is known as the I2U2. Okay, this is what basically sometimes also known as the Eastern Quad, or what is known as Quad for West Asia. Eastern Quad is basically the concept of Middle East. So you can call it either Middle Eastern Quad or the Quad for the West Asia. I2U2. Okay, so just to give you a brief understanding of what the I2U2 is and how this kind of an activity is running out. I2U2, of course, as you can understand from the name itself, the composition of the organization is simple to understand. The I2U2 is basically an organization which is composed of India, Israel, UAE, and USA. These were the four, what you can say, these are the four countries which are members of the I2U2: India, Israel, UAE, and USA. Clear? That's the first part. Okay, the second part says that the I2U2 is an organization which is not a security alliance. Okay, so unlike what is known as the quadrilateral security dialogue in the Indo-Pacific, which could possibly have some elements of a security alliance, I2U2 is not a security alliance. Okay, I2U2 is basically an alliance which is targeted at one particular aspect, which is food security. The most important activity that the I2U2 is currently engaged itself in is food security. Now the idea is very simple. As we had taken a look yesterday, that since Russia and Ukraine, which were the largest food exporters to the world, they have in a way been pushed out of the supply chain because of the problem which is happening at the Black Sea. With the absence of Russia and Ukraine in the, what you can say, supply chain, has created global disturbances with regard to food prices. And as I have mentioned before, that there are certain countries which are specifically slightly problematic about their food securities. Countries who cannot grow their own food necessarily have to depend upon other countries to import their own food. So that's basically a problem with countries, for example, like UAE and even Israel to some extent, who do not have an ability to grow their own food internally, right? So if you take a look at, for example, the concept of the question of the I2U2. I2U2 was an organization created in 2022, and the specific aim of that organization was to get Israel and UAE in a kind of a coming together with each other. And since both of them are kind of problematic states with each other, as Arabs and Jews are fighting in the Middle Eastern region, the preceding activity that happened before the I2U2 is what is known as the Abraham Accords, right? You also have a question on Abraham Accords that came in the UPSC last year. Abraham Accords, as the name suggests, is a kind of a what you can call truce between the Arab states, and Abraham Accords is a kind of a truce between the Arab states and the what you can call Israel, suggesting Abraham as the common figure from which both these kind of people have emerged. So Abraham Accords was a US led kind of a cooperation framework which was initiated by Donald Trump to create some kind of a peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. It was a US led cooperation framework to create peace and stability in the West Asian region, between the Israelis and the Arabs. Abraham Accords, right? And the most important country to become a part of the Abraham Accord was indeed Israel and UAE. right? So it was a kind of a agreement to work in a cooperated manner to be able to secure yourself initially, very clearly. But a lot of speculations around Abraham Accord suggested that it was the it was a temporary alliance between the USA, Israel, and the Arab world to to collectively uh, corner Iran and not let develop their nuclear abilities. So this was also sometimes suspected as a kind of a logic of the Abraham Accords, that in Abraham Accords these countries came together with each other specifically to get one kind of a situation very clearly handled. That is that the rise of Iran as a prominent power in the Indo-Pacific region, in the West Asian region, has to be countered before anything else can be problematically solved, right? So the Jews and the Arabs wanted to bury the hatchet about the dispute in the West Asian region, and they wanted to create a situation in which they can all create a kind of a temporary alliance between themselves to ensure that they could create a kind of a collective action against Iran one way or the other, and especially not allow Iran to develop nuclear abilities, because as everyone understands today, the most important point in Iranian foreign policy is its aspiration to develop nuclear weapons, right? So it was the Abraham Accords which actually put out a kind of a collection of the global West Asian countries against Iran, led by the USA, Donald Trump, who wanted to seek this kind of a movement to initiate a kind of a activity against the Iranians. So just take a look at what is the name of the concept of Abraham Accords. Okay, this is again a current update item, September 21, 2023, 3 years of the Abraham Accords. The agreement between Israel, Bahrain, and the UAE has improved not just regional ties but also brought about better opportunities for Indians. Take a look at this. This week marks an important milestone for West Asia and North Africa. 3 years since the signing of the Abraham Accords between Israel, UAE, and Bahrain under the auspices of the US government. 3 months later, in December 2020, Morocco joined the process, signing a normalization agreement with Israel. The catalyst that enabled these historic accords was the decision by the parties to promote a stable future for the West Asian region. The agreement have ushered in a new era of normalization and peace that not only connects governments but also brings people together despite the differences in their language, religious belief, culture, and more. Now, just this article was written before the October 7 incidents in Palestine, which has thrown West Asia again in the middle of a conflict. The Abraham Accords have also opened up exciting opportunities for India and its thriving business community, which maintains strong relations and active engagement with our nations. So far, the Abraham Accords have offered a mere glimpse of into the full potential of regional cooperation. Even so, the scope of trade between Israel and other West Asian countries increased 74% between 2021 and 22. Another example is tourism, mostly non existent in the past, which has skyrocketed. In 2021, visits from Israel to the UAE increased by 172%. Meanwhile, the number of Israelis flying to Bahrain since the establishment of direct flights has increased exponentially. Right. So, this is basically what we are taking a look at. That the precursor to what is known as the I2U2 is the Abraham Accords, and the what you can call the logic of the Abraham Accords is to ensure that the West Asian countries, with the long-standing dispute between the Jews and the Arabs, is put to some kind of a restraint, right? So, if you want to take a look at the composition of what the Abraham Accords is, the mediation is provided by the USA. Okay, or you can say the initiation is provided by the USA, Donald Trump, and the countries which have signed the Abraham Accord are Israel, UAE, Bahrain, and later Morocco, has also joined the Abraham Accords. Okay, so Abraham Accords are kind of a coming together the Jews and the Arabs to create a kind of a peace activity between themselves and to kind of suspend the activities of violence, specifically with the intention of countering the NATO. That's the number one objective of the Abraham Accords. Now, once Israel had created a bit of a diplomatic arrangement with the Arab states, right? The diplomatic truce, as you can call it. The diplomatic truce between Israel and Arab states. Now, this eventually led to what you can call the creation of I2U2 directly. And the reason that the I2U2 was created was very simple, that USA plus India are large producers of food. Let's say, for example, wheat. Both USA and India are large producers of wheat. Okay. Countries like Israel plus UAE, and especially UAE, are importers of food. USA plus India are large producers of food, and Israel plus UAE are large importers of food. And therefore, what you see in a kind of a understanding of I2U2 is basically the ability for countries like Israel plus UAE to ensure food security amid global uncertainty. This is basically the what you can call the objective of the I2U2. If you have to give it a very simple kind of a paragraph framework, the ability for countries like Israel plus UAE who do not have a kind of a food assurance to ensure for themselves food security amid a global uncertainty. As we had seen yesterday, that the blockade which was imposed at the Black Sea by the UAE, by the Russia and Ukraine war, had eventually led to a food problem for countries like UAE. And since we don't know when the Black Sea is going to open up, or when the war is going to end, or when the conditions of the Black Sea are going to become more convenient, UAE and Israel and other countries, for example, Indonesia, etc., they have to find alternate ways to procure their food. They can't rely upon their traditional suppliers of food, as the Russia Ukraine war has set many things into a bit of a change, right? So, what basically we see in the formation of what is known as the I2U2 is the ability for the countries like Israel and UAE. Now, Israel and UAE come with two special activities. Israel has a lot of agro technology, right? Meaning it is a huge producer of agro technology, agricultural based technology. On the other hand, UAE has a lot of capital. So the idea is basically this for regard to the I2U2, that Israel plus UAE, since both these countries are now connected with each other under what are known as the Abraham Accords, they are going to provide, let's say for example, to India. Israel will provide agro technologies. Israel will provide agro technologies to India, and UAE will provide capital to India. What does India have? India have a large agricultural base, right? So India is obviously a very heavy agricultural country. We have huge amounts of land with regard to feeding our people. So the agricultural land which is controlled by India currently can be used by India, but we don't have the capital or the technology in these areas. So under the I2U2, the concept is to give India capital and technologies. Under the I2U2, the concept is to give India capital and technology to create a kind of an agricultural base for itself, right? And by giving capital and technologies, Israel are going to host their imports of agriculture from India. So if you can own agri businesses in India and if you can make them more technologically proficient, then Israel and UAE are looking for India to fill in the gap which has been created recently into their food supplies because of the Russia Ukraine war. And that is why exactly immediately after the Russia Ukraine war, you see the formation of the I2UT. I2U2 in a way follows the creation of what is known as the Abraham Accords. Right, the Abraham Accords, as we have understood, is the coming together diplomatically of countries like Israel and UAE, Bahrain and Morocco, for the first time creating a bit of a stability between the Jews and the Arabs. God knows what will happen to that entirely now. And second, we see that because of the Russia-Ukraine war, the countries like Israel and UAE who feel a kind of a food insecurity want to now develop their food parks, capital intensive food parks, technological based food parks in countries like India, which have a huge potential in agricultural innovation, right? And therefore agri based startups, etc., are being funded by these countries under what is known as the I2U2 framework, right? And of course this entire framework, because to keep Israel and UAE together, you need the cementing force of USA, so it also has USA in itself. And also the fact that USA is present in the I2U2 makes sure that USA itself, being a huge producer of food, can also be one of the countries which could help these two countries get a sense of their food security. Okay, so what we heard last time with regard to I2U2 was that UAE, meaning one event which has happened under I2U2, is that UAE has committed and in an investment of $2 billion. UAE has committed an investment of $2 billion in the in developing food parks in India. Do you see it? UAE has committed an investment of $2 billion in developing food parks in India. That's what basically we have seen with regard to the creation of the I2U2. So this is the current update on the I2U2 framework. You already have a question on the I2U2 in the main examination 2022. 2022 के main examination में I2U2 पे question था. 2023 के prelims examination में Abraham Accords पे question है. So you can get a same kind of a similar question on the I2U2 in the prelims examination, right? So that's basically what we are going to take a look at. This is the last current update on the I2U2. UAE to invest $2 billion to develop integrated food parks across India. Okay, what is the major objective of an organization like the I2U2? The major objective of an organization like the I2U2 is to ensure food security for countries like Israel and UAE who have come together under the Abraham Accords because of the problems that are arising by the geopolitical uncertainty of the food supply as Russia and Ukraine and Black Sea region are choked up. Right, that's basically the objective of the I2U2, and current update on the I2U2 is what you can see over here. So you can see the leaders of Israel and USA in a virtual summit with the leaders of India and UAE, and this is basically, you take a look at the development of the I2U2. UAE will invest $2 billion to develop a series of integrated food parks across India under the framework of I2U2. The decision was announced after the leaders of the groupings held their first virtual summit. A joint statement said that I2U2 leaders meeting focused on food security crisis and clean energy, and they discussed innovative ways to ensure longer term, more diversified food production and food delivery systems. Right? This is what you have to take an understanding of. So, class, I hope that you have taken a set of notes on these materials as we're discussing about the I2U2. Right? Class, are we clear about this? Are you getting a sense of this I2U2 and how what you have to write? Very simple organization. Israel, UAE, USA, and India to create food security, especially for Israel and UAE. And in turn, India gets investment and technologies from these countries, creating a kind of a holistic movement of economic activities with regard to food production. That is basically what we can understand as the I2U2 framework. Okay, so this is basically what we understand with regard to the I2U2 framework.